connection. Anyway, welcome to the theater. So Amanda and Maria have a program called the Butterfly Project. And as I understand it, they're going to talk a little bit about it, but Maria is a counselor and Amanda is a fitness expert. And you can correct me in a minute. And you have melded mind, body, and spirit, which is what we do here at the theater. So it fits so nicely into a program that is transformational. So ladies, please tell us all about the Butterfly Project.
Yeah, well, first of all, you really described it well, actually, for having not gone through the project yourself yet. But here's what I will say. So your problem, Allison, with, well, actually, really both of your guys' problems with the self-help books, I feel like here's my issue with the self-help books. You read it, you go, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to follow all these tips. And then you close it and you put it right back on the shelf. And it goes away like it never even happened, right? The reason that we started the Butterfly Project, which is a 6-week project for women only, focusing on 4 dimensions of wellness and self-care, the reason we started that is because we want to help women make this transformational change that lasts lifelong. So we don't want you to put the book back on the shelf and be like, oh yeah, all those tips in the Butterfly Project, that's pretty awesome. No. We actually do our 6-week curriculum so that by week 6, you have all of the tools in your toolbox to maintain the changes that you've made. So we're really focused on helping women just transform for good once and for all.
Great. So Maria, you handle the mental health and well-being piece of it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it was interesting. You were talking about self-care at the beginning, and we've had, different aspects of self-care in terms of, cocktail making, reading books, all different things. So the important thing for Amanda and I, when we were putting together the Butterfly Project, was creating a definition for what is self-care. And so what we used is an acronym called PIES, physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. So we've broken down self-care into those 4 areas. And if we, the analogy that I like to use is if we look at each of those 4 areas as if they're legs on a chair, right? And if those legs are strong, then you can put a lot of weight on that chair. But if they're not strong and you put weight on it or stress on it, it collapses or it gets shaky. So when we're talking about self-care, we're talking about those 4 areas and how do we create good habits in each of those areas so that becomes the foundation for your wellness.
Paige is panicking because she just got a battery dying thing. Anyway, go ahead, Amanda. What were you going to say?
When we're talking about those 4 dimensions, those 4 legs on the chair, the very first one, physical, is obviously the one that I am engaged with the most on a day-to-day basis. I'm a personal trainer. I own a small business where I do personal training and nutrition. And so physical wellness in terms of how you can tell if you're physically well, right? First of all, I always say if you are moving your body in a way that makes you feel good and you're doing it more days than you're not, you're acing the game. You're acing the game. There is no one path to physical wellness. It's just movement that makes you feel good that you do more days than not. And again, ideally every day, right? We're moving our bodies. So during, these any type of movement. Yeah. I mean, there is no single best, and if you've studied exercise over time, trends come and go, right? Zumba was hot, jazzercise was hot, spinning was hot, Peloton's the new thing. To me, it doesn't matter. There are amazing, healthy people doing all sorts of crazy things, right? So I say pick the one that you enjoy, that you will do more days than not, and do it. Keep it in your purview.
Does it have to be cardio, or can it be a yoga, Pilates, walking? What
Girl, you are listing off all the things I love, because it does not matter. It really doesn't. What we try to do in terms of encouraging physical wellness is, like I said, find something that you love, that you can do more days than not. And then also make sure that you're thinking about kind of all the major dimensions of fitness. So cardiovascular health is one, strength, muscular endurance, flexibility, and stamina. So if you can, do a little bit in each of those categories, then you're good to go.
Do you mix it up like during the week? Do you do a different thing every day? Do you have how do you decide what you're going to do for exercise?
That's a
You
really
do.
good. And I'll tell you, you know, obviously even in my own career, I've been working in fitness for 14 years. And even in my own career, I've gone through all sorts of transitions. So
Right.
I started out as a competitive triathlete. I then transitioned into marathon running exclusively. I went then really big into CrossFit for a while. I did the Bikram yoga, you know, 30 classes in 30 days and got hooked on that for a year. I mean, there's not really kind of a trend that I haven't been on, except for the dance trends, which is, you don't need to see that. Nobody needs to see that from me. But what I will say is this, for me, because I am over 35, I mean 25 anyway. So for me, weight training is an absolute backbone for my program. So I do weight train 3 times a week. I run once. I still do Bikram once a week. You know, or what I call Hot 26 because I don't pay homage to Bikram. And then I do something with my daughter and my husband at least once a week. You know, maybe a hike, maybe a swim, whatever movement that we enjoy that week.
That's great. So then you never get bored either. You're kind of always mixing it up and doing different things. Which I think
Exactly. There's a lot of movements that I enjoy, so I do all of them.
that's great.
So that's the P in pies. Yeah.
Got the I, right? The intellectual self-care. And I think, you know, intellectual self-care, people think like, oh, does that mean I have to read, you know, and hey, by the way, Book Nook, okay, I love my reading and I love my books as well. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you got to, you know, get nose deep in a book or that you've got to, you know, be familiar with all sorts of, you know, high level concepts. Intellectual wellness really just means, do you have a passion, right? Something that excites your mind and excites your soul. And are you pursuing it? Some of us, you know, Maria and I are both lucky because we get to work in our passion projects. So literally our work and our passions are aligned. So every day we're doing something intellectually stimulating. Doing something that excites your passions is what we consider intellectual wellness. So, you know, in the Butterfly Project, we encourage things like journaling, scrapbooking, vision boarding, things that kind of get you thinking. And then we allow those conversations to happen because that, you know, interacting with those ideas with others is really how you share that intellectual wellness.
And so, yeah, I'm not as, the vision boarding thing, I would have to figure out another way around it. That's
Well, but it just seems
hard
like,
for me.
I know, but I think it's cool that you said, you know, journaling, vision boarding, because it's really all about, I guess I think of it like sort of right brain, left brain. It's getting that creative outlet going, right? Whether that's, I don't know, drawing or whatever it is, I don't know. Maybe it is reading or whatever, something that makes
And
you
Paige,
happy.
I'm just like you. I have never made a vision board like with my scissors and hands. What I have a board on Pinterest called Vision Board. And so that's what my vision board is.
Now who's lazy, Paige?
All right, so physical, intellectual, E.
And so E is emotional. So emotional self-care is around how do you self-regulate, right? How do you process your emotions? And for most of us, that's talking with our friends, right? You know, Paige, we're talking about like, you know, going, having a glass of wine with your friend or, you know, chatting with your husband or your wife, you know, just spending time talking about things that are happening in your life. Journaling is another great way to practice emotional self-care. Therapy, music, art, whatever it is that helps you with your emotions, to sit with them and be with them, and just to process them. So, you know, that really is the best way to work on your emotional self-care.
I'm sure people have been having a hard time processing emotions too lately. I mean, you must see such an uptick right now in people struggling with their mental health, right?
Yeah, there is. There's a lot. And that's why, you know, I think for us, you know, part of the idea behind the Butterfly Project was to look at the fact that people are struggling right now and what's a way that we can provide some tools to help people, you know, feel a little more comfortable feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a pie. Now we want more.
It's a pie. Yeah. So the the S comes in with this spiritual aspect. And oftentimes, you know, people feel like if you're not religious, then, you know, you can't be spiritual. And I think that that's a real misnomer, because spirituality doesn't have to be linked to religion. You know, certainly if you are religious and you go to temple or synagogue or church, prayer is a great way for you to engage in that spiritual self-care. But if you're not religious, it's about how do you find time to connect? How do you give yourself the space and the time to have that mind-body connection? So whether it's through yoga, meditation, qigong, tai chi, progressive relaxation, anything like that that gives you that time and space. That's how you can practice your spiritual self-care.
That's so interesting. A while ago, I was talking to Stacy, who was on earlier, the nutritionist, and she was talking to me about walking meditation. She was saying that she'll go out sometimes without any headphones, no music, nothing, and just sort of let her thoughts wander. And that's one of the ways she kind of reconnects and helps her get her head straight and just sort of lets her thoughts go. And I thought it was so interesting. And I realized when she was telling me this that I process a lot when I run. I go for runs a couple times a week, and I usually don't do it with anything on. And I'm like, oh, that's actually what they're talking about. You know, it's a way to
so it's, whatever you're doing that just kind of gets you in that meditative state. So Amanda and I were talking earlier about for me, swimming, when I'm swimming laps, people think, oh, it's so boring, like how can you swim? But for me, that's when I just get into that state where I'm not thinking about anything. I feel calm, I feel relaxed. So it's really anything that gives you that sense of calm and peace.
I love this. I love the way you've defined these kind of 4 pillars of self-care and that they kind of are interconnected. I think it seems, I hate the word holistic, but I'm going to use it.
No, I think that's right, because I was just thinking the same thing. It's a mind-body connection, right? You really can't have one without the other. So I think it was so clever of you guys to do this together.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, we deliberately, I think it's really important to talk deliberately about wellness rather than health. Because I think when people think about health, they think about, is my blood pressure normal? Is my cholesterol okay? Right? I'm healthy. But the idea of wellness, right, kind of takes it to that next level where it's like, am I firing on all cylinders when it comes to my movement, my meditative health, my spiritual health? I think that's really, what the wellness term incorporates.
Getting enough sleep. Wow.
That's the biggest challenge. Okay, that's interesting. So maybe before we go, since you all were the ones that asked this question, what are a couple of things, if you could give us like 3 tips for getting enough sleep, what would they be?
Yeah. Well, if I can share one of my favorite strategies, which is the 10-3-2-1 strategy, okay, and it circles on getting better sleep. So the idea is, first of all, set a bedtime. So if your bedtime is 10 o'clock, which is the example I'm going to use, 10 hours before your bedtime, cut the caffeine. Okay, so that's the 10 in the 10-3-2-1. 10 hours before, cut the caffeine. Because studies show that even 8 hours, 7, 6, closer you get to bedtime, the more caffeine will disrupt your sleep. So 10 hours before, cut the caffeine, okay? 3 hours before, finish up your exercise. So if you're doing vigorous exercise, you got to cut that out by 7. If you're trying to get to bed by 10, that's going to allow your body to get into that cool down, shutdown mode. 2 hours before bed, cut the food and alcohol. So there should be no more calories in your food. 2 hours. I mean, even deep fried turkey on Thanksgiving, get that out of your system 2 hours before bed. Okay. So that's the 2. And then the 1, the hardest one, is screens, guys. Get the screens out.
Totally.
1 hour before bedtime. And hey, if that means that you don't know what to do with yourself and you end up going to bed an hour early, even better, right? So if it's a hard copy book, a meditation, something in your ear, that's fine, but no screens, blue lights in your face 1 hour before bed.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, I know I put my phone across the room so I won't be tempted, even if I have those, like, I mean, I think too, as you get older, well, women at least, like I'm waking up a lot in the middle of the night. And so I try, at least if my phone is across the room, I won't reach for it and like pick it up and then I'm awake, but it's hard with Kindle and, everything you read on screens. But yes, if you can, I think this no screen is the biggest thing for sure.
Yeah, I read something recently that said blue light is bad night. And I was like, ooh,
makes sense.
I'm going to add that to my 10-3-2-1, right?
Yeah, that's a good little slogan.
Okay, Maria, what's your tip for a good night's sleep?
I was just going to say, I think, the other thing is, being, like Amanda and I've talked a lot about designing your environment, right? Whatever the goal is that you want is creating the environment that's going to be the most, the most beneficial for you to achieve your goal. So I tell all of my clients that your bedroom has to be for sleep and sex and reading, and that's it. Right? There's no, bringing your work into bed. There's no, your bedroom has to be a place for relaxation. And that getting rid of your screens and getting rid of your technology in your room, because it is so tempting. If your phone is right there and it buzzes in the middle of the night, or you wake up and you're like, I'm just going to check the time, and then, oh, maybe I'll check Instagram, or I'll check my email too while I'm at it, and then you're up and you're going. So making sure that you're creating a really restful space for yourself to set the stage to have sleep success.
I love that. And by the way, Steve Oken, if you're listening, you didn't hear it from me. You heard it from two experts. Turn off the screen.
True.
Sorry, needed to get the personal plug in.
Twitter event.
Well, thank you. We have put the link to the Butterfly Project up in the chat for everybody. And I'm super excited because Amanda and Maria have written an article for the next print issue of the theater, which will be out next week. So look for that, everybody. Thank you so much. It was great having you this evening. Have a good night.
Thanks.